Hey Ben, it's so good to see you. We're here at DISTRIBUTECH, and we thought we'd take a moment to talk a little bit about the Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative. You've been involved in the Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative from the very beginning, and I've been real fortunate to be involved with you in it. And I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. What is PDi squared, and what kinds of things can people look forward to from PDi squared, both now and in the future?
Yeah, PDi2 is an organization of men and women in the industry who have varied expertise. And the organization, I believe, fills a gap in the industry. We have standards organizations, which by nature tend to move very slowly. And we have other, organizations that are membership only. Where I see Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative, what it does is it creates a space for those experts, those consultants, material suppliers, technology providers, people who've been in the field, have the data, have the client and the utility contacts, and have learned so much. Where do you disseminate? How do you get that information together? That collective knowledge together and make it in a place where everyone can access it. And it's not exclusive, just say membership only. So I really see that's a need in the industry, and I believe that's what Power Delivery
Right, it's non-exclusive, because if you went to IEEE or to CGRE or other organizations like that, you might have to be a member, you might have to pay to get access to reports, but at PDi squared, because it's supported by companies like yours, like IMCORP and others that we'll talk about, that information, that wealth of information, I would say, is available to men and women, the planners, the engineers, the data scientists that are trying to make those decisions. Hey, do I put this new T&D asset overhead or underground? And how do I evaluate the true total cost of ownership of an underground asset versus overhead? Hey, we've been doing overhead like this for the last 50 years. Right. So that's the way my grandfather built it, and that's the way our standards say we should build it. But this is the 21st century. This is 2024. It is time for new standards. We are spending billions of dollars on undergrounding, and we need to do it the right way. And I think there's a lot of members of PDi squared, IMCORP included, that have got some great ideas, proven ideas, to bring those costs down, the cost of design, the cost of construction, and the cost of operations and maintenance. So IMCORP, why has IMCORP been part of PDi squared for all these years? You're an O&M company, really, at the end of the day. So tell us why, tell us a little bit about what IMCORP does and why you think it's valuable to be part of this organization.
Right, so first, who IMCORP is. IMCORP is a cable reliability consulting and diagnostic company. So we have a technology that can provide a foot-by-foot profile of underground power cable and find microscopic defects before they fail. Foot by foot.
That's pretty cool.
That's right. So the whole idea is to be able to repeat the manufacturer's quality control test in the field on that foot-by-foot, that scan profile information. Be able to use that not only on aging assets, operating and maintenance, which can be capitalized, by the way, per FERC, but also during commissioning. So you're using that capital up front to remove future O&M, right? So that's what we're about. We have the technology, we provide the service, and what we were finding is that as we go to talk to clients, they were having many of the same questions as companies like Dow and Borealis and Prysmian and Southwire. All these companies, they're getting the same questions. How do cable systems fail? How long can they last? What are some of the best practices and materials and components? We've been doing thousands of dissections on defective components. We've been advising some of these suppliers on how to improve their products. So with that wealth of information, where do we go with that? Well, we can keep presenting at CGRE and IEEE, and eventually those will work their way into standards. But how do people get this information, right? And how do we speak with one voice as an industry? Because many of us are saying the same things. How do we get that out there? We wanted to be a part of that movement, and we saw that undergrounding was going to be a large. It used to be that undergrounding was never talked about because it was too expensive. That was the thought process. And come to find out, there's utilities all over the place who've had very good success at lowering the costs and that message wasn't getting out there. So when someone, at least a representative from Dow, approached us and said, hey, we want to build a consortium of experts who have all these different areas of knowledge to try to promote best practices in T&D grid investment and advocate for underground, so that when people look at the scale and say, what should I do, overhead versus underground, recognizing there is a time to go overhead, but are we really including all of the data points and information on the side of the scale for underground? And we felt like we had something to offer there and participate, and to be able to network with people who are answering those same questions. Some of the biggest names in the industry, the Quantas, the Burns and Mac, the folks like
some of the equipment manufacturers,
ABB,
Vermeer, Ditch Witch,
Right.
Polywater.
Right.
Polywater's got a great story to tell about the lubricants that go into the cables and how much farther we can actually truly pull. So some of these things need to be standardized. You talked about commissioning. We've talked about commissioning before. I love the idea of these proven technologies being put into the specifications of new cable installations. I think it's incumbent upon young civil engineers in particular, and electrical engineers, the men and women in the industry that are they're going to build billions of dollars worth of underground to develop these new standards that'll include things like cable commissioning and such. So you've mentioned several other companies. You've got your company engaged at Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative for many, many years. We have other members, and I would agree with you that it does make up a really nice team of resident experts, if you will, in undergrounding. Why do you keep coming back to PDi squared? You see there's value there.
Yeah.
Why?
So really the network opportunity from our standpoint. So for example, we have these panel sessions like we did today here at DISTRIBUTECH, and those rooms are full. We pack that room as an organization and that's you, bringing those utility advisors to talk about underground. And so what better place to meet prospective clients as at some of these events where we're focused on that subject. So we're bringing people together, not only the experts, but also the opportunity, the actual business opportunities together. And isn't that what we want for the industry?
That's what we want to do, right? No, we are at DISTRIBUTECH here in Orlando, and we really had a good panel today. A couple of the panelists, one was from City of Loveland and just came from Fort Collins, which is 80 to 90% underground. And another one was from Beaches Energy, and they are 90% underground. And so these utilities have been, and these are public power utilities, and they've been underground for a long time. So when people say, well, no, we can't do it, I was like, yeah, you can do it. And there is empirical data out there to support it. Go look at your FERC 1 report, for example, and you will show that utilities, IOUs in particular across America, that have to fill out reports for the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission will state that their cost of underground O&M is lower than their cost of overhead. And of course, we heard the 5 panelists today all say the same thing, that one of our panelists today said, set it and forget it. You do a good job installing cable and conduit and set it and forget it. He said, we've got cable systems that have lasted for the 44 years that he was personally aware of. So that's a great story, and a story that we want to continue to tell. So appreciate the Power Delivery Intelligence Initiative, and just would say that if you've got any concluding remarks or any encouraging words that you want to say to somebody that might use PDi squared as a resource, or maybe somebody that might join us in the leadership of PDi squared.
Yeah, so we're obviously continuing to look for members to grow that dynamic network that we have, as well as utility advisors, folks that are engaged with us and that want to tell their story about underground. That's a wealth of information on the website, right? PDi2.org, right? And that continues to evolve. Also on LinkedIn, we have a lot of great content where if you want to know about undergrounding, I almost don't need to look anymore. It's there, right? It's a feed of information, not only technical information and great webinars, announcements for panel sessions and so forth. If you want to be in the know what's happening underground, it's really a great place.
It is definitely, that information is definitely there. So we appreciate your leadership over the years of PDi2. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to see you, Ben.
Thanks, Mike.